3 a.m. Your eyes snap open. You're awake, completely awake. You can see your bedroom clearly. The familiar shadows, the dim outline of furniture, maybe moonlight through the curtains. You try to sit up. Nothing happens. You try to move your arm. Nothing. Your legs. Nothing. You can't even turn your head. Panic floods through you. You try to call out. Your voice doesn't work. Your mouth won't open. You can't make a sound. And then you sense it, a presence. Something in the room with you. You can't see it clearly, but you know it's there in the corner or at the foot of your bed. Watching. It moves closer. You can feel it approaching. Your heart is racing. You're trying to scream, trying to move, trying to do anything, but you're completely frozen. The presence gets closer. You feel weight on your chest. Pressure. You can't breathe properly. Something is sitting on you, or choking you. The terror is absolute. This is sleep paralysis, and if it's happened to you, you know exactly how real it feels. Welcome to Serene Science Channel. I am going to explain what is actually happening in your brain when you cooey and move, and how to handle it. Subscribe to Serene Science Channel if you want to understand the real neuroscience of sleep, dreams, and your brain at night. Hit subscribe. Turn on notifications. Comment if you've experienced this. You're not alone and sharing helps. Now, let's explain what sleep paralysis really is. Let me tell you about Jessica's first sleep paralysis episode. She was 22, living in her first apartment after college. She'd been working long hours, sleeping maybe 5 hours a night, stressed about her new job. One night, she woke up around 3 a.m. At first, everything seemed normal. She was lying on her back, looking at her ceiling. She thought about rolling over and going back to sleep. Then she tried to roll over and realized she couldn't. Her first thought was confusion, not fear. Why can't I move? She tried her arms. Nothing. Her legs. Nothing. She tried to call out to see if something was wrong with her voice. No sound came out. That's when the fear hit. Full panic. Did I have a stroke? What's happening to me? Her heart started racing. She could feel it pounding in her chest, but she still couldn't move a single muscle except her eyes. She could look around. That was all, and that's when she saw it. A shadow in the corner of her room, darker than the surrounding darkness, and it had a shape. Human-like, but wrong. Jessica's rational mind tried to tell her it was just her coat hanging on the door, or a play of shadows, but the shadow moved. It stepped away from the wall and started walking toward her bed. Every instinct screamed at her to run. She couldn't. She was frozen. Helpless. Watching this thing approach, it reached her bedside, and then she felt it. Weight. Pressure on her chest, like something was sitting on her, pressing down. Her breathing became shallow, labored. She felt like she was suffocating. Jessica was certain she was dying. This was Italiano. Some kind of demon or entity was killing her, and she couldn't even fight back. The pressure increased. The shadow loomed. Her chest felt crushed. She couldn't breathe. And then, suddenly, it was over. The pressure lifted. The shadow was gone. She could move. She bolted upright, gasping, drenched in sweat. She turned on every light in her apartment and didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, exhausted and terrified, She called her mom. Her mom had heard of sleep paralysis, but didn't know much about it. Jessica went online and found the term. Reading about it, she realized every detail of her experience was textbook sleep paralysis. The paralysis, the hallucination of a presence, the pressure on her chest, the terror. Thousands of people described the exact same experience. Understanding what it was helped. It didn't erase the memory of the terror, but it gave her a framework. It wasn't supernatural. It was neuroscience. Over the next few years, Jessica had sleep paralysis maybe 10 more times. Each time was scary, but never as terrifying as the first, because she knew what it was. She learned her triggers. It always happened when she was sleep deprived and sleeping on her back. She changed her sleep habits, got more consistent sleep, trained herself to sleep on her side. The episodes became rare, then stopped entirely. Now when she tells people about it, she describes it as the most terrifying thing my brain has ever done to me. But also fascinating once I understood the science. This is the power of understanding sleep paralysis. It transforms an inexplicable nightmare into an explainable neurological event. So what exactly is happening in your brain during sleep paralysis? Sleep paralysis occurs when you're conscious and aware, but temporarily unable to move or speak. It happens during transitions between sleep and waking states. Here's the key mechanism. During REM sleep, the stage where most vivid dreaming occurs, your brain paralyzes your voluntary muscles. This is called rematania. The paralysis is protective. It prevents you from physically acting out your dreams. Without this mechanism, you'd thrash around, potentially hurting yourself or anyone sleeping nearby. People with a condition called REM sleep behavior disorder lack this protective paralysis, and they do act out their dreams, sometimes violently. The paralysis happens through a specific neural mechanism. Neurons in your brainstem, particularly regions called the pons and medulla, send strong inhibitory signals to motor neurons throughout your spinal cord. These signals use neurotransmitters like glycine and GABA-aminobutyric acid to hyperpolarize the motor neurons, making them unable to fire. The result is complete muscle paralysis from the neck down. Your diaphragm and breathing muscles remain active because they're controlled by different neural circuits. Same with your eyes. They can move freely, which is why this stage is called rapid eye movement sleep. This happens automatically every night, during every REM period. You've been paralyzed hundreds, probably thousands of times in your life. You just didn't know it because you were unconscious. Your arousal systems activate. Your prefrontal cortex comes online. You become aware of yourself and but the brainstem is still sending those inhibitory signals. Your motor neurons are still blocked. You're awake, but frozen. Think of it like a timing mismatch. Normally, the sequence is REM sleep begins, paralysis kicks in, you dream unconsciously, REM ends, paralysis releases. Then you wake up or transition to another sleep stage. In sleep paralysis, the sequence breaks. REM sleep paralysis kicks in. You wake up while paralysis is still active. You're caught between two brain states. Part of your brain is awake and aware. Part is still in REM mode with active paralysis. Brain imaging studies have confirmed this. Researchers using fMRI and EEG have scanned people during sleep paralysis episodes. The scans show a unique pattern of brain activity. The prefrontal cortex, the executive control center responsible for awareness and conscious thought, shows activity consistent with being awake. The motor cortex shows the suppressed activity pattern of REM sleep. The amygdala, your brain's fear center, shows heightened activity, often more active than during normal waking or normal REM sleep. Visual and sensory cortices may be partially in REM mode, generating dreamlike perceptions that overlay reality. This specific combination creates the characteristic experience of sleep paralysis. You're aware, prefrontal cortex active, you can't move, motor cortex suppressed, you're afraid, amygdala hyperactive, and you might see things, visual cortex in REM mode. It's a dissociated state. Different brain systems that normally work together are out of sync. Dr. Balanja Lau, a neuroscientist at Harvard and Cambridge who studied sleep paralysis extensively, describes it as a window into how consciousness works. In sleep paralysis, you can observe the separate components of consciousness: awareness, motor control, emotion, perception, operating independently. The experience is brief. Episodes typically last anywhere from a few seconds to 2 or 3 minutes. Occasionally they can extend to 5 or 6 minutes. But this is rare. It always ends eventually because rematonia is time-limited. The brainstem neurons generating the paralysis naturally deactivate as your brain fully transitions out of REM. Additionally, your attempts to move eventually not working send arousal signals through your nervous system that help wake you up completely. There's never been a documented case of someone becoming permanently stuck in sleep paralysis. It always ends. Always. This is crucial to remember if you experience it. The paralysis feels absolute and terrifying in the moment. Your brain interprets being unable to move as a life-threatening situation, but objectively, it's temporary and will resolve on its own within minutes at most. Jessica told me that understanding this helped immensely. The first time, I thought I was dying. Now when it happens, which is rare, part of me is still scared. But another part is thinking, sleep paralysis. You'll know this, it'll end soon. That knowledge makes it so much more bearable. Let us go deeper into the neuroscience of exactly how and why your brain paralyzes you during REM sleep. The mechanism involves a complex neural circuit, but we can break it down into understandable components. The brainstem control center, the pons, is a region in your brainstem, located where your brain meets your spinal cord. Within the pons, there's a specific area called the sublateral nucleus SLD, also sometimes called the subcoruleus nucleus. This tiny region is the master switch for REM. When it activates during REM sleep, it triggers the entire paralysis cascade. The SLD sends signals to another brainstem region called the ventral medulla, specifically 2 neurons that produce glycine and GABA, both inhibitory neurotransmitters. These glycine and GABA neurons then send long projections down to your spinal cord. They connect to motor neurons throughout your spine, the neurons that would normally activate your muscles. When the glycine and GABA are released onto these spinal motor neurons, they hyperpolarize them. This means they make the neurons more negative electrically, moving them further from the threshold needed to fire an action potential. The result, even if your motor cortex is sending move commands, the spinal motor neurons can't respond. They're electrically suppressed. This suppression is powerful and complete for most skeletal muscles. Your arms, legs, torso, neck, all offline. But crucially, certain muscles are exempt. Your diaphragm and intercostal muscles breathing are controlled by different circuits that aren't affected by rematonia. You need to breathe during sleep. Your eye muscles are also exempt. The neural circuits controlling eye movement don't receive the same inhibitory signals. Some small facial muscles, particularly around your eyes and mouth, may remain partially responsive. This selective paralysis is why during sleep paralysis, people often report that they can breathe, though it might feel labored, and move their eyes, but nothing else. The protective purpose. Why did evolution create this mechanism? The answer is clear: protection. Dreams often involve intense physical activity, running from threats, fighting, climbing, falling. If your body acted these out, you'd thrash violently in your sleep. You could roll out of bed and injure yourself. You could strike a sleeping partner. You could damage property around you. We know this because people who lack rheumatomia do exactly this. They have a condition called REM sleep behavior disorder, RBD. People with RBD physically act out their dreams. They punch, kick, leap out of bed, run into walls. They've injured themselves and their partners. Some have broken bones, gotten concussions, caused serious harm. RBD is more common in older adults and is associated with neurodegenerative conditions like Parkinson's disease. It occurs when the brainstem circuits that generate rheumatia start to fail. The existence of RBD proves how important the paralysis mechanism is. Without it, sleep becomes dangerous, so rheumatomia is protective and necessary. Sleep paralysis is just this protective mechanism, persisting at the wrong time when you're conscious. The timing mechanism during a normal night's sleep, you cycle through different stages: light sleep N1 and N2, deep sleep N3, and REM sleep. You typically enter your first REM period about 90 minutes after falling asleep. Early in the night, REM periods are short, maybe 10 minutes. As the night progresses, REM periods get longer and more frequent. In the last few hours of sleep, REM can last 20 to 30 minutes at a time. The transition into REM is usually seamless. The brainstem activates rheumatomia. Your conscious awareness turns off, or rather, you're dreaming and not self-aware. And you remain unconscious throughout the REM period. The transition out of REM is also usually seamless. The paralysis releases. You either wake up briefly, most people don't remember these micro-awakenings, or transition into another sleep stage. Sleep paralysis occurs when one of these transitions gets disrupted. Hypnagogic sleep paralysis. This happens as you're falling asleep. You're drifting toward REM. The paralysis mechanisms start activating, but you maintain awareness instead of losing consciousness. You feel yourself becoming paralyzed while still awake. This type is less common and usually less terrifying because you're expecting to fall asleep anyway. Hypnopompic sleep paralysis. This happens as you're waking up from REM. Something causes you to wake: an external noise, a dream event, or spontaneous arousal. But the rheumatomia doesn't release yet. You wake up paralyzed. This is more common and typically more frightening because the sudden awareness of being unable to move is shocking and disorienting. Why the timing gets disrupted: several factors can cause these mistimed transitions. Sleep deprivation is the most common trigger. When you're sleep deprived, your brain has a REM debt. You've missed REM sleep and need to catch up. When you finally sleep after deprivation, your brain rushes into REM more quickly and intensely than normal. This increases the chances of awareness during REM transitions. Irregular sleep schedules can desynchronize your circadian rhythms and sleep cycles, making transitions between stages less smooth. Stress and anxiety can fragment sleep and cause spontaneous awakenings, increasing the chances of waking during REM. Sleep position matters. For reasons not entirely understood, sleeping on your back significantly increases sleep paralysis risk. About 50% of reported episodes occur in the supine position. One theory is that back sleeping may partially obstruct breathing, which could trigger partial awakenings during REM, or it might relate to how gravity affects blood flow and nervous system function in this position. Certain medications that affect neurotransmitters can influence REM sleep architecture and make sleep paralysis more likely. Individual variation. Not everyone experiences sleep paralysis with the same frequency. About 8% of people report having regular episodes once a month or more. About 40% have experienced it at least once in their lifetime. The remaining roughly 50% may never experience it at all, even if they occasionally experience the conditions that trigger it in others. This variation suggests genetic factors influence susceptibility. Twin studies and family studies indicate sleep paralysis tends to run in families, pointing to heritable risk factors. Researchers are working to identify specific genes involved, but it's likely multi-genetic, many genes, each contributing small effects. Now let's talk about why sleep paralysis comes with such terrifying hallucinations. Not everyone who experiences sleep paralysis hallucinates. About 25% have episodes with just paralysis. They wake up, can't move, feel frightened, then no visions, no presences, no pressure. But the majority, about 75%, experience vivid, often terrifying hallucinations. And these hallucinations follow remarkably consistent patterns across different people and cultures. There are three main types, and neuroscience can explain each one. Type 1. Intruder hallucinations. This is the most common type. You sense a presence in the room. Something or someone is there with you. Often, you can see it, a dark figure, a shadow, a shape that doesn't belong. The presence feels malevolent, threatening, dangerous. It might be standing in a corner, in a doorway, at the foot of your bed, or approaching you. Sometimes people see specific entities, demons, aliens, hooded figures, old women, shadow people. Sometimes it's just a formless darkness that radiates menace. Why does this happen? Your amygdala, the almond-shaped structure in your brain's limbic system, is your threat detection center. It's constantly scanning for danger, and when it detects a threat, it triggers fear and the fight-or-flight response. During sleep paralysis, brain imaging shows the amygdala is hyperactive, significantly more active than during normal waking or normal REM sleep. Why is it so active? Because you're in a genuinely threatening situation from an evolutionary perspective. You can't move. In nature, being unable to move usually means you're trapped, captured, injured, or under attack. Your amygdala recognizes this as dangerous. It triggers intense fear, but there's no obvious external threat, no predator, no attacker. Nothing your conscious mind can see, causing the paralysis. So your brain creates one. It generates the perception of an intruder to explain the fear you're feeling. This is a type of top-down perception. Your brain is starting with the emotion, fear, and the situation paralysis, and constructing a perception-threatening presence that makes sense of those inputs. Dr. Bolland Jalal's research at Cambridge has shown that the specific form the intruder takes often relates to cultural expectations and personal fears. In Western cultures, people often see shadowy humanoid figures or classic demon shapes, which might relate to cultural narratives about demons and evil spirits. In some cultures where alien abduction narratives are common, people see aliens or UFO-related imagery. If someone has specific phobias, the presence might take a form related to that fear. But the core experience, sensing a malevolent presence when paralyzed, appears to be universal. It's your hyperactive amygdala generating threat perception. Type 2. Incubus hallucinations. This is the sensation of pressure on your chest or body, feeling like something is sitting on you, pressing down, crushing you, often accompanied by difficulty breathing or a choking sensation. The term incubus comes from medieval folklore. An incubus was a demon that would sit on sleeping people's chests. Many cultures have similar folklore about entities that suffocate sleepers, but the neuroscience explanation is more mundane and more interesting. During REM sleep, your breathing pattern changes. You breathe more shallowly and irregularly. The muscles that control fine respiratory movements, your intercostal muscles, your chest wall muscles, are partially paralyzed. Now you're still breathing, your diaphragm still works, but the normal full expansion of your chest is restricted. When you're unconscious during normal REM, you don't notice this, but when you're conscious during sleep paralysis, you become aware of your altered breathing. Your chest feels tight. Breathing feels labored. You can't take a deep breath. This feels like restriction, like something is pressing on your chest. Your brain interprets this sensation as external pressure. Something is sitting on me. Something is choking me. And because your visual cortex might be partially in REM mode, generating dreamlike imagery, your brain may create a visual representation of this pressure. A dark figure crouched on your chest, hands around your throat, a heavy weight bearing down. The suffocation feeling is particularly terrifying because breathing difficulty triggers primal panic. It activates ancient survival circuits that respond to suffocation as an immediate life threat. But here's the reassuring part. You are actually breathing. Your oxygen levels are fine. The sensation of not being able to breathe is your brain misinterpreting the altered breathing pattern of REM sleep, not actual respiratory failure. People who understand this, who can remind themselves during an episode, "I'm breathing, it just feels restricted," often report less panic and shorter episodes. Type 3. Vestibular motor hallucinations. This is the strangest type. Sensations of floating, flying, falling, spinning, or being pulled or dragged out of body. Experiences. Feeling like you're separate from your physical body. These hallucinations result from conflicts between different sensory systems. Your motor cortex is trying to send movement commands. Sit up, roll over, move. But your body isn't moving. Your proprioceptive system, which senses body position and movement, is sending the message, no movement is happening. This creates a conflict. Your brain expects sensory feedback from movement but isn't receiving it. To resolve this conflict, your brain sometimes generates the sensation of movement, even though you're not moving. You feel like you're floating, even though you're lying still. You feel like you're being pulled or rotated, even though your body position hasn't changed. Additionally, your vestibular system, which controls balance and spatial orientation, can be affected by the REM state. This can create sensations of motion, tilt, or spatial disorientation. Some people describe feeling like they're re-looking down at their own body from above, a classic out-of-body experience. This happens when your brain's sense of where you are becomes disconnected from where your body actually is. These vestibular motor hallucinations are typically less frightening than the intruder or incubus types. They can even be pleasant or interesting for some people. In fact, lucid dreamers sometimes intentionally use these sensations to transition from sleep paralysis into a lucid dream. They relax into the floating or pulling sensation and allow it to carry them into a dream environment. The combination effect: many people experience multiple hallucination types simultaneously. You might sense a threatening presence intruder, feel pressure on your chest incubus, and have sensations of floating or spinning vestibular motor all at the same time. This creates an overwhelmingly bizarre and terrifying experience. Your brain is generating multiple conflicting perceptions simultaneously, all while you're conscious. But why it feels so real? One question people always ask. Why do the hallucinations feel so real? You know, my room, I could see actual details. It wasn't like a dream where everything is fuzzy. The answer is that you were actually perceiving your real environment. Your eyes were open. Your visual cortex was processing actual sensory input from your bedroom, but your brain was also generating additional imagery. The shadow figure, the presence that overlaid the real perceptions. It's like augmented reality, but created internally. Your brain is taking real visual input and adding hallucinatory elements to it. This is different from a dream, where everything is generated internally. In sleep paralysis, you're perceiving reality plus hallucinations at the same time. This is why people are often certain that what they saw was real. The bedroom was real. The shadows were real. The perception felt completely grounded in reality. So, the presence or entity also feels real. Only after the episode ends and the entity is gone does the rational mind kick in and say that couldn't have been real. But in the moment, it feels absolutely, terrifyingly real. Reducing hallucination intensity, interestingly. Research shows that understanding the mechanisms of these hallucinations can reduce their intensity and frequency. When people know this is my amygdala generating threat perception, or this is altered breathing being misinterpreted, their fear response is dampened. Lower fear means lower amygdala activation, which can reduce the generation of threatening hallucinations. It's a feedback loop. Fear generates hallucinations. Hallucinations generate more fear. But interrupting the fear with cognitive understanding can interrupt the loop. People who VA experience sleep paralysis many times often report that later episodes are less intense than early ones. They've learned what it is. Their fear response is lower. The hallucinations become less vivid and threatening. Some experienced individuals even report being able to consciously modulate their hallucinations during an episode, shifting from threatening imagery to neutral or even positive imagery by changing their emotional state. This doesn't work for everyone, especially not during first episodes when the terror is overwhelming, but it demonstrates that the hallucinations are unentirely automatic. They were partly shaped by your psychological state. Let me share several real accounts from people who've experienced sleep paralysis. These illustrate the variety of experiences and how people cope. Daniel's recurring visitor. Daniel started having sleep paralysis in high school. His episodes followed a pattern. He'd wake up unable to move, and he'd see the same figure every time, a tall man in dark clothes standing at the foot of his bed. The figure never moved or spoke. It just stood there, watching. The presence felt malevolent, but not actively threatening. The first time, Daniel was terrified. He thought he was seeing a ghost or demon. He was raised religious and interpreted it through that framework. An evil spirit attacking him. After it happened several more times with the same figure, he started researching. He found information about sleep paralysis and realized his demon was a hallucination created by his own brain. This knowledge helped, but didn't completely eliminate the fear. Seeing the figure was still unsettling even when he knew it wasn't real. What finally helped Daniel was changing his relationship to the figure. Instead of seeing it as threatening, he started thinking of it as just my brain doing its weird thing. When episodes occurred, he'd think, oh, there's the paralysis guy again. The familiarity made it less frightening. He even started mentally talking to the figure. Yeah, I see you. I know you're not real. See you next time. This playful, dismissive attitude reduced his fear dramatically. The episodes still occurred occasionally, usually when he was stressed and sleep-deprived, but they became more annoying than terrifying. Daniel's story illustrates how reframing the experience can change its emotional impact. Maria's choking episodes. Maria experienced sleep paralysis differently. For her, it was always about the inability to breathe. She'd wake up feeling like she was suffocating. No air was getting in. Her chest was being crushed. She was certain she was dying each time. She'd panic, try to scream, try to thrash. Nothing worked. The feeling of suffocation would peak, and then suddenly she could breathe again and move. She went to a doctor, worried about sleep apnea or some respiratory problem. Tests showed nothing wrong with her breathing or lungs. A sleep specialist identified it as sleep paralysis with strong incubus-type hallucinations. He explained that she wasn't actually suffocating. She was breathing the whole time. It just felt restricted because of REM breathing patterns. Understanding this helped intellectually, but the suffocation sensation was so primal that knowledge alone wasn't enough. The panic was too strong. What helped Maria was learning breathing techniques. When she felt an episode starting, instead of panicking and trying to take big breaths, she focused on slow, calm breathing. 4 counts in through the nose, 6 counts out through the mouth. Just focus on the count. This gave her mind something to do besides panic, and it reminded her that she was, in fact, breathing. The technique interrupted the panic spiral. She also changed her sleep position. She'd always slept on her back. She trained herself to sleep on her side using a body pillow. Her sleep paralysis episodes dropped from once or twice a week to once every few months. Maria's story shows how practical interventions, breathing techniques, and sleep position changes can manage even very frightening episodes. Kevin's out-of-body journey. Kevin's sleep paralysis experiences were dominated by vestibular motor hallucinations. He'd wake up unable to move, but instead of seeing threatening figures, he'd feel like he was floating, rising up out of his body, looking down at himself sleeping. The first time, it wasn't frightening. It was fascinating. He felt like he was having a genuine out-of-body experience, maybe a spiritual awakening. He started researching out-of-body experiences and lucid dreaming. That's when he learned about sleep paralysis and realized his spiritual experiences were neurological. Rather than being disappointed, Kevin was intrigued. He started intentionally using sleep paralysis as a gateway to lucid dreams. When he'd wake up paralyzed and feel the floating sensation, instead of fighting it or being scared, he'd relax into it. He'd imagine himself floating up and into a dream environment. It didn't work every time, but often enough, he'd successfully transition from sleep paralysis into a lucid dream, where he could consciously control the experience. Kevin's episodes went from random, somewhat confusing occurrences to something he could use productively. He learned his triggers. Sleep paralysis happened most often when he did wake back to bed for lucid dreaming. He now sees sleep paralysis as a tool rather than a problem. Not everyone can or wants to use it this way, but Kevin's story shows how the same phenomenon can be experienced very differently depending on your knowledge and attitude. Sophia's one-time terror. Not everyone has recurring sleep paralysis. Sophia experienced it exactly once, and that was enough. She was traveling for work, sleeping in an unfamiliar hotel room, jet-lagged and exhausted. She woke up around 2 a.m., completely pale. She saw a figure standing in the corner of the room. It looked like a person in a hood. It started moving toward her. Sophia tried to scream, tried to reach for her phone, tried to run. Nothing worked. She was frozen. The figure reached her bed. She felt pressure on her chest. Intense, crushing pressure. She couldn't breathe. She was certain this entity was killing her. The terror was absolute. She'd never been so afraid in her life. Damn it and dead. Suddenly, she could move. The figure was gone. She sat up, heart pounding, shaking uncontrollably. She turned on all the lights and sat awake the rest of the night. She was afraid to go back to sleep. The next day, she called a friend who told her about sleep paralysis. She researched it. Understanding what had happened helped her process the experience. That was 5 years ago. It hasn't happened again. Sophia thinks it was the combination of travel, stress, jet lag, unfamiliar environment, and sleeping on her back in an uncomfortable hotel bed. Now, when she travels, she's more careful about sleep hygiene. She brings her own pillow. She tries to maintain consistent sleep schedule even across time zones. She avoids sleeping on her back. She's still slightly afraid it might happen again, but knowing what it is makes it less mysterious and less frightening. Sophia's story is common. Many people have only 1 or 2 episodes in their entire life, usually triggered by specific circumstances. Alex's weekly pattern on the other end of the spectrum is Alex, who experienced sleep paralysis weekly for years. His episodes always followed the same pattern. Sunday night or Monday morning, around 4 or 5 a.m., he'd wake up paralyzed with a sense of dread and often a shadowy presence. The consistency was strange. Why always Sunday, Monday? His doctor and he figured it out. Weekend sleep schedule changes. During the week, Alex woke up at 6 a.m. for work. On weekends, he slept until 9 or 10 a.m. This 3 to 4 hour difference disrupted his circadian rhythm. Sunday night, he tried to go to bed earlier to wake up Monday for work, but his body was still on weekend time. He'd sleep irregularly, wake up during REM periods, and experience sleep paralysis. Once he understood the pattern, he made changes. He started waking up at the same time every day, including weekends, just 1 hour later than his work wake-up time, not 3 or 4. The consistency stabilized his sleep. His Sunday-Monday sleep paralysis stopped almost immediately. Alex still gets sleep paralysis occasionally, maybe once every few months now instead of weekly. Usually when he's extremely tired or stressed, but the regular pattern is gone. His story shows how sleep schedule consistency can be crucial for preventing episodes. These different experiences illustrate several key points. Sleep paralysis manifests differently for different people. Understanding what it is helps, but doesn't always eliminate fear completely. Practical strategies, sleep position, breathing techniques, schedule, consistency can reduce frequency and intensity. Some people learn to work with sleep paralysis rather than against it. The experience, while terrifying, is temporary and not dangerous. Now let's talk about what actually causes sleep paralysis and what makes it more likely to happen. Understanding your personal triggers is key to prevention. The primary cause: sleep deprivation. This is the #1 trigger for sleep paralysis. If you're not getting enough sleep, your risk increases dramatically. Here's why. When you're sleep deprived, your brain accumulates what's called sleep debt, particularly REM debt. You've missed REM sleep over multiple nights, and your brain needs to catch up. When you finally get a chance to sleep, your brain tries to go directly into REM or spend more time in REM than normal. This is called REM rebound. During REM rebound, you enter REM more quickly after falling asleep, have longer REM periods, and more intense REM sleep. All of this increases the chances of awareness during REM transitions. Additionally, sleep deprivation makes sleep more fragmented. You're more likely to have brief awakenings during the night. If one of these awakenings happens during REM, you get sleep paralysis. Studies show that even one night of significantly restricted sleep increases sleep paralysis likelihood. Chronic sleep deprivation makes it much more likely. The solution is obvious but not always easy. Prioritize adequate sleep. For most adults, this means see 8 to 9 hours per night, consistently. See a USE2. Irregular sleep schedule. Your body runs on circadian rhythms, internal 24-hour cycles that regulate sleep, wakefulness, hormone release, body temperature, and many other functions. These rhythms are controlled by the suprachiasmatic nucleus in your hypothalamus, often called the body's master clock. When your sleep schedule is irregular, going to bed at different times, waking up at different times, sleeping very differently on weekends versus weekdays. You desynchronize these rhythms. This desynchronization disrupts normal sleep architecture. The transitions between sleep stages become less smooth. You're more likely to have partial awakenings or awareness during transitions. Shift workers have particularly high rates of sleep paralysis. For this reason, working nights one week and days the next, or rotating shifts, constantly disrupts circadian rhythms. Jet lag creates the same problem. Your internal clock says one time, the external environment says another. Your sleep is fragmented and transitions are disrupted. Students who pull all-nighters and then try to catch up on weekends often experience sleep paralysis for the same reason: massive schedule irregularity. The solution: maintain consistent sleep and wake times, even on weekends. If your schedule must be irregular, shift work, etc., try to minimize the variation and give your body time to adjust between shifts. Cause 3. Sleep position. This one is well documented but not fully understood. Sleeping on your back significantly increases sleep paralysis risk. Studies show that about 50% of sleep paralysis episodes occur when people are sleeping supine on their back. Another 25% occur on the side, determining 25% in other positions, or position unknown. We do back sleeping matter? Several theories. Theory 1. Back sleeping may partially obstruct your airway, creating mild breathing difficulty. This could trigger micro-awakenings during REM, increasing sleep paralysis likelihood. Theory 2. Gravitational effects on blood flow. When you're on your back, blood flow patterns in the brain differ from side sleeping. This might affect the neural circuits controlling sleep states. Theory 3. Proprioceptive signals. Your brain receives different information about body position and pressure when you lay on your back versus your side. This might affect sleep state stability. The exact mechanism isn't clear, but the correlation is strong and consistent. The practical application. If you experience sleep paralysis frequently, try training yourself to sleep on your side. Use a body pillow to make side sleeping more comfortable and to prevent rolling onto your back during the night. Many people report dramatic reductions in sleep paralysis episodes simply by changing sleep position. Cause 4. Stress and anxiety. Psychological stress doesn't directly cause sleep paralysis, but it creates conditions that make it more likely. Stress affects sleep in multiple ways. It makes falling asleep harder. Sleep onset insomnia. It fragments sleep. You wake up more during the night. It alters sleep architecture, sometimes reducing deep sleep and changing REM patterns. It activates your sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight response, which can create lighter, more fragile sleep. All of these factors increase the chances of awareness during REM transitions. Additionally, anxiety about sleep paralysis itself can create a vicious cycle. You're afraid it will happen. This anxiety disrupts sleep, which makes it more likely to happen, which increases anxiety. Managing stress through healthy coping mechanisms, exercise, meditation, therapy, time management, social connection, can significantly reduce sleep paralysis frequency. Cause 5. Certain medications. Some medications can affect sleep architecture or neurotransmitter systems in ways that increase sleep paralysis risk. Antidepressants, particularly SSR, is selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, can suppress REM sleep. When you stop taking them or miss doses, you can experience REM rebound, increasing sleep paralysis risk. ADHD medications, stimulants, can affect sleep quality and architecture. Some blood pressure medications affect neurotransmitters that play a role in sleep regulation. Melatonin supplements, if used incorrectly, wrong dose, or wrong timing can disrupt natural sleep architecture. If you're taking medication and experiencing sleep paralysis, talk to your doctor. Don't stop medications on your own, but discuss whether they might be contributing and if alternatives exist. Cause 6. Substance use. Alcohol is a major sleep disruptor. While it might help you fall asleep initially, it fragments sleep later in the night and can cause REM rebound when it wears off. Drinking close to bedtime increases sleep paralysis risk. Caffeine too close to bedtime obviously disrupts sleep, making paralysis more likely. Nicotine is a stimulant that affects sleep quality and can trigger awakenings. Cannabis has complex effects on sleep. It may suppress REM initially, leading to REM rebound later when it wears off or when use is discontinued. Other recreational drugs can dramatically disrupt sleep architecture and increase sleep paralysis and other parasomnia experiences. Minimizing or eliminating these substances, especially close to bedtime, can reduce sleep paralysis frequency. Cause 7. Sleep disorders. Certain sleep disorders are associated with higher rates of sleep paralysis. Narcolepsy, a disorder of sleep-wake regulation, has particularly high association with sleep paralysis. About 30 to 50% of people with narcolepsy experience sleep paralysis regularly. Sleep apnea, where breathing repeatedly stops during sleep, causes frequent awakenings and fragmented sleep, increasing sleep paralysis risk. Restless leg syndrome and periodic limb movement disorder fragment sleep and can increase parasomnia occurrence. If you have frequent sleep paralysis, along with other symptoms like excessive daytime sleepiness, snoring, or inability to stay awake during the day, see a sleep specialist. An underlying sleep disorder might be present. Cause 8. Genetics and family history. Twin studies and family studies show that sleep paralysis tends to run in families. If your parents or siblings experience sleep paralysis, you're more likely to experience it too. This suggests genetic factors influence susceptibility. Researchers are working to identify specific genes involved, but it's likely polygenic, many genes, each contributing small effects. You can't change your genetics, but knowing you have a family history can help you be more proactive about the preventable triggers. Sleep schedule, sleep position, stress management. The interaction of multiple factors. Most sleep paralysis episodes don't result from a single cause. They result from multiple risk factors converging. For example, your genetically predisposed family history. You're sleep deprived from a busy week. You have a stressful deadline tomorrow. You drink a couple beers before bed. You fall asleep on your back. Any one of these factors alone might not trigger sleep paralysis, but combined, they create high-risk conditions. Understanding your personal combination of risk factors helps you identify what to change to reduce your risk. Sleep paralysis has been documented across cultures and throughout recorded history. Before neuroscience explained it, every culture created narratives to make sense of the terrifying experience. Looking at these cultural interpretations reveals both the universality of the phenomenon and how humans try to explain the inexplicable. Medieval Europa, incubus, and succubus. In medieval European folklore, sleep paralysis was attributed to demons called incubus male demons, or succubus female demons, that would visit sleeping people. The incubus would sit on a person's chest, causing the sensation of pressure and difficulty breathing. Sometimes it was said to sexually assault the sleeping victim, or attempt to impregnate women. The term nightmare originally referred to this phenomenon. Mare was an Anglo-Saxon term for a female demon that would visit sleepers. Paintings from this era often depicted sleep paralysis. The most famous is Henry Fuseli's The Nightmare 1781, showing a woman lying on her back with a demon crouched on her chest and a horse's head, another Mare reference, emerging from the shadows. These interpretations made sense within the medieval worldview where demons and spiritual warfare were accepted explanations for unexplained phenomena. Newfoundland. The Old Hag. In Newfoundland, Canada, sleep paralysis is called being hagged. Visited by the Old Hag. The Old Hag is a witch-like entity that sits on your chest while you sleep, paralyzing you and trying to suffocate you. The experience is so common in Newfoundland folklore that being hagged is still a widely recognized term. When someone wakes up unable to move with pressure on their chest, locals know exactly what they mean. Interestingly, researchers have studied sleep paralysis prevalence in Newfoundland and found it's not actually higher than other regions. The difference is cultural Newfoundlanders have retained a traditional explanation and terminology while other regions have adopted scientific explanations. Japan. Kanashibari. In Japanese culture, sleep paralysis is called kanashiba, which translates roughly to bound in metal or bound by metal chains. The term comes from Buddhist tradition, where it originally referred to a magical binding technique used to restrain demons or animals, applied to sleep paralysis. It describes the sensation of being bound or tied down, or nableto mub. Japanese cultural interpretation historically linked kanoshibari to spiritual causes, perhaps being bound by spirits or experiencing a visitation from the spirit world. Modern Japan has largely adopted the scientific understanding, but the traditional term kanashibari is still widely used to describe the experience. Mexico and Latin America. Subirse al muerto. In Mexican and broader Latin American folklore, sleep paralysis is called subirse el muerto, which translates to the dead one climbing on you. The interpretation is that a deceased person's spirit is sitting or lying on you, preventing movement and often trying to communicate or convey a message. Some traditions hold that the dead person wants to take you with them to the afterlife, which explains the feeling of suffocation or dread. In some versions, the dead person is someone you knew. In others, it's an unknown spirit or evil entity. This interpretation made sleep paralysis a spiritual experience, a visitation from the dead that might require religious intervention or spiritual cleansing. Islamic tradition. Jinn attacks. In Islamic folklore, sleep paralysis is sometimes attributed to jinn, supernatural beings made from smokeless fire, mentioned in the Quran. Jinn can be good or evil. Sleep paralysis, particularly when accompanied by frightening hallucinations, was sometimes interpreted as an attack by an evil jinn. The paralysis was seen as the jinn physically restraining you, and the hallucinated presence was the jinn itself becoming visible. Religious remedies included reciting protective verses from the Quran, or seeking help from religious leaders to ward off the jinn. Modern Muslim communities vary in their interpretation. Some maintain traditional spiritual explanations, while others have adopted scientific understanding, while maintaining cultural terminology. West African. Spiritual attacks. Various West African cultures attributed sleep paralysis to witchcraft or spiritual attacks. A witch or sorcerer was believed to be attacking you in your sleep, either to harm you, extract life force, or as part of a curse. The paralysis and presence were seen as evidence of this spiritual assault. Remedies involved spiritual protection, consulting with traditional healers, or religious interventions to ward off or counter the attack. Southeast Asia, Fayam and Tayan-Lo cultures. Sleep paralysis is associated with Fayam, a ghost that sits on your chest. Different regional variations exist, but the common thread is a spirit pressing down on the sleeper, causing paralysis and terror. Traditional explanations linked it to spirits of the dead, forest spirits, or malevolent entities. In some versions, specific rituals or behaviors are said to prevent Fayam attacks. The universal pattern. Looking across these diverse cultural interpretations, several patterns emerge. The core experience is remarkably consistent. Paralysis, pressure on chest, sense of presence, difficulty breathing, intense fear. Every culture creates an explanation that fits its existing belief systems and worldview. The entity or presence is almost always described as malevolent or at minimum otherworldly. The experience is often interpreted as a spiritual or supernatural phenomenon rather than a medical one. Many cultures developed protective rituals, prayers, or behaviors to prevent or end episodes. The shift to scientific understanding, the modern scientific understanding of sleep paralysis, began developing in the 19th and 20th centuries. As medicine and neuroscience advanced, researchers studying sleep discovered REM sleep and rematonia in the 1950s and 1960s. This provided the framework for understanding sleep paralysis as a natural physiological phenomenon. Brain imaging technology in the late 20th and early 21st centuries allowed scientists to observe what is actually happening in the brain during sleep paralysis, confirming and extending the theory. Today, sleep paralysis is understood as a dissociated state, a glitch in the normal sleep-wake transition where conscious awareness returns before rematonia releases. The hallucinations are explained by hyperactive amygdala, dreamlike brain activity overlaying waking perception, and misinterpretation of altered breathing and body signals. The value of both perspectives. Modern scientific understanding doesn't invalidate the cultural and historical perspectives, it explains them. Those medieval Europeans who saw demons weren't making it up. They were genuinely experiencing terrifying hallucinations during sleep paralysis and interpreting them through their available explanatory framework. The old hag, the Jinn Fayem, the dead person climbing on you. These weren't collective delusions. They were different cultural interpretations of the same neurological phenomenon. Science shows us what's happening mechanistically. Cultural narratives show us how humans have always tried to make sense of frightening experiences. Both types of knowledge have value. Science helps us understand and manage the phenomenon. Cultural history reminds us we're not alone in this experience. Humans have been dealing with sleep paralysis for thousands of years across every culture. Now, the most practical question. What do you actually do when you're in the middle of a sleep paralysis episode? You wake up. You can't move. Maybe you're seeing things. Fear is rising. What do you? Here are evidence-based strategies that help technique 1 stay calm. Easier said than done. I know the single most important thing is to not panic. I know this seems impossible when you're paralyzed and potentially hallucinating a terrifying presence. Your amygdala is screaming danger. Every instinct is in full fight or flight mode. But panic makes everything worse. It increases your fear, which increases amygdala activity, which can intensify hallucinations, which increases fear further. It's a vicious spiral. Breaking the panic is key. How do you stay calm when everything in you wants to panic? Cognitive tell yourself this is sleep paralysis. I know what this is. I'm safe. It will end soon. Even if you're still afraid, having this rational thought running in the background helps. You're engaging your prefrontal cortex, the rational, analytical part of your brain. This can help dampen amygdala hyperactivity. People who've experienced sleep paralysis multiple times report that this gets easier. The first time is the worst. Each subsequent time, you recognize it faster and can engage the rational response more quickly. Oh, this again. Sleep paralysis. Okay. Just wait it out. Technique 2, focus on your breathing. This is the most practical, actionable technique. Remember, you are breathing during sleep paralysis. It might feel restricted or labored, but you're getting oxygen. You're not suffocating. Instead of trying to take big gasping breaths, which doesn't work because your chest muscles are paralyzed, focus on slow controlled breathing. Breathe in for a count of 4, hold for a count of 2, breathe out for a count of 6, or whatever count pattern feels comfortable. The specific numbers matter less than the focused, controlled rhythm. This does several things. It gives your mind something to focus on besides fear. It provides concrete feedback that you are breathing, counteracting the suffocation sensation. Slow, controlled breathing activates your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system, which can help reduce the fight-or-flight panic response. The concentration required to count breaths engages your prefrontal cortex, which can help reduce amygdala hyperactivity. Many people report that focused breathing is the single most effective technique for managing sleep paralysis episodes. Technique try to move small muscles while your major muscle groups are paralyzed during rematonia. Some small muscles may retain partial responsiveness. Try to wiggle a finger or a toe. Try to move your eyes more deliberately. Try to make a small facial movement. Often, getting any small movement to work can trigger a cascade that breaks the full paralysis. It's like the paralysis is a complete system, and creating any crack in it can cause the whole thing to release. Don't try to make big movements like sitting up or throwing a punch. These won't work, and will just increase frustration and panic. Focus on the smallest possible movement. Just wiggle one finger. Just one toe. People report that this technique works maybe 30 to 40% of the time. When it works, it can end the episode almost immediately. Technique for don't fight it. This seems counterintuitive, but fighting against the paralysis often prolongs the episode. When you're straining with maximum effort to move, trying to scream, struggling against the paralysis, you're creating tension and stress. This activates your sympathetic nervous system and maintains high arousal. Paradoxically, relaxing and accepting the paralysis sometimes ends it faster. Okay, I can't move right now. That's fine. I'll just wait. I'm safe. This acceptance reduces panic, which can help your brain fully transition out of REM more quickly. Additionally, if you stop fighting, you're more likely to either fall back asleep or fully wake up. Either outcome ends the paralysis. This technique is particularly useful for people who VA experience sleep paralysis enough times to trust that it will end. Technique 5: Transition to a lucid dream. Advanced. This technique requires practice and isn't for everyone, but it can transform sleep paralysis from a negative experience into a positive one. If you're familiar with lucid dreaming, you can use sleep paralysis as an entry point. When you realize you're in sleep paralysis, instead of trying to wake up or break the paralysis, you relax into it. You might focus on any floating or pooling sensations, vestibular motor hallucinations, and imagine yourself moving with them. Or you might visualize yourself rolling out of your body. Or you might focus on any dream imagery you're seeing and allow yourself to enter it. The goal is to transition from the paralyzed state into a full lucid dream where you have a dream body and can move. This works because sleep paralysis is already a state where your brain is partially in REM sleep. You're close to dreaming. With the right mental approach, you can tip yourself fully into the dream state while maintaining consciousness. Lucid dream practitioners sometimes deliberately induce sleep paralysis through techniques like Wild Awake initiated lucid dreaming because it's a known gateway to lucid dreams. But for most people, sleep paralysis is frightening, and trying to transition to a lucid dream during the fear isn't realistic. This technique is more for advanced practitioners who are comfortable with altered states. Technique 6. Remind yourself it's temporary. Episodes of sleep paralysis feel like they last forever. Time perception is distorted when you're terrified, but objectively, Most episodes lasts 30 seconds to 2 minutes, rarely longer than 5 minutes. Reminding yourself this will end in the next minute or two provides a mental light at the end of the tunnel. You can endure anything for 2 minutes if you know it will end. Some people even try to time their episodes. Okay, I'm going to count to 120. It'll probably be over before I get there. This engages the rational mind and provides structure to the experience. Technique 7. Change your body position for next time. This doesn't help during the episode, but it's important for after. Sleep paralysis typically ends when you fully wake up and can move again. The first thing many people do is sit up, turn on lights, check their phone. Perfectly understandable reactions. But if you then just lie back down in the same position, especially on your back, there's a significant chance of another episode within minutes. This happens because you might still be in a REM period or close to entering REM. If you lie back down in the same position, you can easily slip back into the same state. Instead, after an episode, change position. If you are on your back, roll to your side. Get up briefly, walk around, get water, use the bathroom. Fully wake up. Fully. If you need to sleep more, return to bed in a different position. This reduces the likelihood of repeat episodes during the same night. What doesn't work? A few things that people try but generally don't help. Screaming or trying to call out. Your vocal cords are paralyzed. The effort just increases panic, trying to force major movements. Your large muscle groups are offline. Straining against it doesn't help and increases frustration. Trying to fall back asleep while still pet. This often just maintains the state or leads immediately to another episode. Panicking and fighting, understandably. But Deductive. The importance of preparation. All of these techniques work better if you've thought about them before an episode happens. If sleep paralysis is a possibility for you, spend a few minutes thinking through what you'll do. If I wake up and can't move, I'll recognize it as sleep paralysis. I'll focus on breathing slowly. I'll tell myself it's temporary. I'll try to wiggle my fingers. This mental rehearsal means the plan is available to you during the actual experience. Without preparation, you're much more likely to just panic. With preparation, you have a script to follow that can help you manage the episode effectively. Prevention is more effective than treatment when it comes to sleep paralysis. Here's a comprehensive prevention strategy based on research and clinical experience. Strategy 1. Prioritize sleep, quantity, and quality. This is foundational. Most sleep paralysis can be prevented by simply getting adequate, quality sleep. For most adults, this means 7 to 9 hours per night. Some people need slightly more or less, but this is the general range. Adequate sleep doesn't just mean duration. It also means quality. Uninterrupted sleep. Minimize awakenings during the night by creating a good sleep environment. Dark, quiet, cool, comfortable, proper sleep. Staging. Alcohol and some medications disrupt sleep architecture. Even if you're in bed for 8 hours, your sleep might not be restful. Consistency. Getting 9 hours one night and 5 hours the next averages to 7. But the inconsistency itself disrupts sleep regulation. How to prioritize sleep when you're busy. Treat sleep as non-negotiable. Schedule it like any important appointment. Calculate your wake-up time and count backwards 8 hours. That's your bedtime. Protect that bedtime. Say no to activities that would cut into it. If you absolutely must reduce sleep one night, rare emergency. Plan to recover with extra sleep the next night, not to just continue with short sleep. Most sleep deprivation is not from true necessity, but from poor prioritization. Scrolling social media at midnight when you need to wake at 6 a.m. is a choice. Making sleep a priority eliminates the primary trigger for sleep paralysis. Strategy 2. Maintain consistent sleep schedule. Go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time every day, including weekends. I know this is hard. Weekends are for sleeping in, right? But from your circadian rhythm's perspective, sleeping until noon on Saturday after waking at 6 a.m. all week is like giving yourself jet lag. Your body clock gets confused. Sunday night, you can't fall asleep because you slept late Saturday. Monday morning, you're exhausted because your body thinks it's still weekend time. This disruption increases sleep paralysis risk. D. Solution. Choose wake and sleep times you can maintain 7 days a week. If your work requires 6 a.m. wake up on weekdays, don't sleep past 7 or 8 a.m. on weekends. A 1-hour difference is manageable. A 4-hour difference disrupts your system. If this feels impossible, it means your weekday schedule is forcing sleep deprivation. You might need to go to bed earlier on weeknights, or reconsider your schedule if possible. For shift workers, this is more complicated. If you work rotating shifts, try to minimize the frequency of shift changes. A month on nights, then a month on days, is less disruptive than changing weekly. When you do change shifts, give yourself a transition day. If possible, be extra vigilant about the other prevention strategies since schedule consistency is difficult. Strategy 3. Sleep position modification. Train yourself to sleep on your side, not your butt. This single change eliminates about half of sleep paralysis episodes for many people. How to change sleep position. Use a body pillow. Hug it while sleeping on your side. This makes side sleeping more comfortable and provides something to prevent rolling onto your back. Wear a backpack to bed with something bulky in it like a rolled-up sweatshirt. This makes back sleeping uncomfortable, so you naturally stay on your side. Sounds weird, but it works. Tennis ball technique. Tape a tennis ball to the back of your sleep shirt. When you roll onto your back, the discomfort wakes you enough to roll back to your side. After a few weeks, side sleeping becomes habitual. Elevate your head slightly. Some people find that using a slightly thicker pillow or a wedge pillow reduces back sleeping. Be patient. It takes those 4 weeks to retrain sleep position. But once established, it becomes automatic. Strategy for managed stress and anxiety. Chronic stress increases sleep paralysis risk through multiple pathways. Stress management isn't just about feeling better, though that's important too. It's about protecting sleep quality and reducing sleep paralysis. Effective stress management techniques. Regular exercise. Physical activity reduces stress hormones, improves sleep quality, and helps regulate circadian rhythms. Aim for 30 minutes of moderate exercise most days, but not right before bed. Finish exercise at least 2 to 3 hours before sleep. Meditation or mindfulness. Practice even 10 minutes daily can significantly reduce baseline stress and improve sleep. Apps like Headspace.com or Insight Timer provide guided practices. Therapy or counseling. If you're dealing with chronic anxiety, trauma, or significant life stress, working with a therapist can address root causes. Social connection. Time with friends and family, meaningful conversations, feeling supported. These buffer against stress. Time in nature. Even brief exposure to natural environments reduces stress markers. Hobbies and enjoyable activities. Things you do purely for enjoyment, not productivity, are essential for stress balance. Journaling or worry time. If anxious thoughts keep you awake, try setting aside 15 minutes earlier in the evening to write down worries and make action plans. This can prevent rumination at bedtime. Strategy 5. Create optimal sleep environment. Your bedroom should be conducive to good sleep. Dark. Use blackout curtains or an eye mask. Even small amounts of light can disrupt sleep. Quiet. Use earplugs, white noise machine, or fan if needed. Sudden noises can cause partial awakenings that might coincide with REM. Cool. 6067. F15, -19. Say is optimal for most people. Your body needs to drop core temperature to sleep well. Comfortable. Invest in a comfortable mattress, pillows, and bedding. Physical discomfort fragments sleep. Bedroom for sleep only. Don't work in bed, eat in bed, or spend wakeful time in bed. Train your brain that bed equals sleep. Remove screens. No TV, phone, or tablet in the bedroom if possible. Blue light and stimulating content interfere with sleep. Strategy 6. Evening routine and sleep hygiene. Develop a consistent pre-bed routine that signals to your body that sleep is approaching. 1 to 2 hours before bed. Dim lights throughout your home. Bright light, especially blue light from screens, suppresses melatonin. Avoid stimulating content. Intense movies, stressful news, work emails. All activate stress responses when you need to wind down. Avoid heavy meals. Eating large meals close to bedtime can disrupt sleep. If you need a snack, keep it light. 30 to 60 minutes before bed, do calming activities. Reading physical books, not backlit screens. Gentle stretching, warm bath, quiet conversation. Prepare for the next day. Set out clothes, pack lunch, make to-do list. This clears your mind of planning mode. Practice relaxation, progressive muscle relaxation, breathing exercises, or guided meditation right before bed. Keep lights dim. Use only warm-colored, dim lights for bathroom routine, etc. Temperature check. Make sure bedroom is cool enough. Electronics off. Leave phone outside bedroom or in airplane mode if using it as an alarm. Consistency matters more than the specific activities. Your brain learns the routine and starts initiating sleep processes when the routine begins. Strategy 7. Avoid sleep disruptors. Caffeine. None after 2 p.m. Caffeine has a half-life of 5 to 6 hours, meaning half is still in your system that long. After consumption, if you drink coffee at 3 p.m., half of it is still affecting you at 9 p.m. Alcohol. Avoid within 3 hours of bedtime. Alcohol might help you fall asleep initially, but it fragments sleep and causes REM rebound in the early morning hours. Prime sleep paralysis time. Nicotine. It's a stimulant. If you smoke or vape, avoid close to bedtime. Heavy exercise. Exercise is good for sleep, but not right before bed. Finish intense exercise at least 3 hours before sleep. Large fluid intake. Drinking a lot right before bed means you'll wake up needing to use the bathroom, disrupting sleep. Naps. If you're having sleep issues at night, limit or eliminate daytime naps. If you must nap, keep it to 20 to 30 minutes and before 2 p.m. Strategy 8. If IT runs in your family, you have family members who experience sleep paralysis, you're at higher genetic risk. You can't change your genes, but you can be more proactive about the environmental factors. Be stricter about sleep schedule and quantity. Make sleep position change a priority. Manage stress carefully. Avoid sleep disruptors religiously. Think of it like having genetic risk for heart disease. You can't change the genetic component, but you can optimize all the modifiable risk factors. Monitoring your patterns. Keep a sleep diary if sleep paralysis is a recurring issue. Track when episodes occur. Day, time, how much sleep you got the night before, what position you were sleeping in, stress level that day, 1 to 10, scale, caffeine, alcohol, or medication use. Any other notable factors after a few episodes. Patterns often emerge. ULLC. I always get sleep paralysis when I sleep less than 6 hours, and I am on my back, or it happens when I am stressed about work deadlines. Identifying your specific pattern helps you know which prevention strategies to emphasize. The cumulative effect. These strategies work best in combination, not isolation. Fixing just your sleep schedule might reduce episodes by 30%. Changing sleep position might reduce them another 40%. Managing stress might reduce them another 20%. Together, you might go from weekly episodes to 1 episode every few months, or even eliminate them entirely. Prevention takes effort and consistency, but for people who experience frightening, recurring sleep paralysis, it's absolutely worth it. There's a fascinating relationship between sleep paralysis and lucid dreaming. Understanding this connection can transform how you think about sleep paralysis and potentially turn a negative experience into a positive one. Both involve consciousness. During REM sleep. Paralysis and lucid dreaming are both states where you have conscious awareness during REM sleep. In a lucid dream, you're conscious that you're dreaming while the dream continues. You have awareness, but remain asleep. In sleep paralysis, you're conscious of being awake or partly awake, while your body remains in REM. You have awareness, but your body is still asleep. Both are dissociated states. Your consciousness is active, but other aspects of sleep paralysis, dreaming, continue. This is why many lucid dreamers experience sleep paralysis, and vice versa. The brain states are closely related. Sleep paralysis is a gateway to lucid dreams. Many experienced lucid dreamers deliberately use sleep paralysis as an entry point to lucid dreams. Here's how this works. When you experience sleep paralysis, you're already very close to REM sleep. Your body is in full REMatonia. Your brain is in a borderline state. If you can stay calm during the paralysis and shift your focus from "I need to wake up" to "I am going to enter a dream," you can transition into a lucid dream. The technique. Recognize you're in sleep paralysis. Okay, this is sleep paralysis. I know what this is. Instead of fighting or trying to wake up, relax completely. Accept the paralysis. Focus on any floating or spinning sensations you might be experiencing. Vestibular motor hallucinations. Imagine going with those sensations, or visualize yourself rolling or floating out of your body, or focused on any dream imagery you're seeing and imagine yourself stepping into it. The goal is to transition from paralyzed awareness into a full dream with a dream body you can move. When this works, you suddenly find yourself in a dream environment, fully lucid, able to move and explore. The wild technique there is a lucid dreaming technique called WILD, Wake-Initiated Lucid Dreaming, where you maintain consciousness as you fall asleep, entering a dream directly from waking. WILD often involves intentionally experiencing sleep paralysis as an intermediate state. The process. Wake up after 4 to 6 hours of sleep during or after a REM period. Stay awake for 10 to 30 minutes. Return to bed with the intention to maintain awareness as you fall asleep. As your body begins to fall asleep, you maintain conscious awareness. You experience the onset of sleep paralysis. Your body becomes heavy. You can't move. You might have strange sensations or see hypnagogic imagery. If you stay calm and focused, you transition through the paralysis into a lucid dream. For lucid dreamers practicing WILD, sleep paralysis isn't something to fear. It's a sign they're on the right track. This completely reframes the experience, changing your relationship with sleep paralysis. For people who are interested in lucid dreaming, Understanding this connection can transform sleep paralysis from a terrifying event into an opportunity instead of, oh no, sleep paralysis. This is awful. It becomes sleep paralysis. I can use this to have a lucid dream. This mental reframing has several benefits. It reduces fear. Less fear means less amygdala hyperactivity, which can mean less intense hallucinations. It gives you something to do during the episode besides panic. You have a technique to try. It potentially turns a negative experience into a positive one if you successfully transition to a lucid dream. Even if the transition doesn't work, and you just wait out the paralysis. Approaching it with curiosity rather than terror makes it more manageable. I want to be clear. This approach is not for everyone. Not for everyone if you're experiencing sleep paralysis for the first time. Or if it's infrequent and you find it extremely frightening. Your goal should probably just be to end the episode and prevent future ones. Don't add pressure to use the sleep paralysis productively. That's not necessary. This connection to lucid dreaming is primarily interesting for people who are already interested in or practicing lucid dreaming, people who have experience with sleep paralysis and are looking for a way to reframe it, people who are comfortable with altered states and want to explore consciousness. If the idea of intentionally staying in sleep paralysis to try to lucid dream sounds terrible to you, then it's not the right approach for you. And that's completely fine. The broader point. But there is a broader point worth considering, even if you're not interested in lucid dreaming. Your interpretation of an experience shapes that experience. If you interpret sleep paralysis as a terrifying, supernatural attack, it will be maximally frightening. If you interpret it as my brain doing a weird but harmless glitch, it's less frightening. If you interpret it as an interesting altered state I can potentially use, it might even be somewhat neutral or positive. The neuroscience is the same in all three cases. What's happening in your brain is identical, but the subjective experience changes dramatically based on your interpretation and expectations. This isn't just positive thinking. It's recognizing that fear is partly generated by your interpretation of events, and changing your interpretation can reduce fear. You don't have to become interested in lucid dreaming to benefit from this principle. You just have to shift from this is an inexplicable horror to this is a known neurological phenomenon that will pass and coe and hurt me. That shift alone can make sleep paralysis significantly less traumatic. For most people, sleep paralysis is not a medical emergency and doesn't require treatment. It's frightening but not dangerous. However, there are situations where you should consult a healthcare provider. When to see a doctor. Situation 1. Frequent episodes that significantly impact your life. If you're experiencing sleep paralysis multiple times per week, or if the fear of sleep paralysis is causing you to avoid sleep or develop insomnia, you should see a sleep specialist. While sleep paralysis itself isn't dangerous, chronic sleep disruption certainly is, and frequent episodes might indicate an underlying sleep disorder. Situation 2. Sleep paralysis, accompanied by other concerning symptoms. If you experience excessive daytime sleepiness, falling asleep at inappropriate times, difficulty staying awake during normal daily activities, sudden muscle weakness triggered by strong emotions, cataplexy automatic, behaviors doing things without awareness, vivid hallucinations when falling asleep or waking up beyond sleep paralysis. Sleep attacks suddenly falling asleep without warning. These symptoms together might indicate narcolepsy, a neurological sleep disorder. Narcolepsy requires medical diagnosis and treatment. Situation 3. Sleep paralysis started after beginning a new medication. Some medications can increase sleep paralysis frequency. If this coincides with starting a new medication, talk to your prescribing doctor. Don't stop medication on your own. That can be dangerous, but discuss whether the medication might be contributing and whether alternatives exist. Situation 4. Signs of other sleep disorders. If you also have loud snoring and gasping during sleep, possible sleep apnea, restless legs at night, difficulty falling or staying asleep most nights, chronic insomnia, unusual behaviors during sleep, sleepwalking, sleep eating, etc. These might indicate sleep disorders that could be contributing to sleep paralysis. A sleep study might be appropriate. Situation 5. Significant anxiety or distress about sleep. If sleep paralysis has triggered anxiety or fear around sleep, that's impacting your quality of life, consider talking to a therapist or counselor. Cognitive behavioral therapy (CBT) can be very effective for managing anxiety about sleep and sleep paralysis. Specifically, what a doctor can do if you see a sleep specialist about sleep paralysis, they might take a detailed sleep history. When do episodes occur? What are the circumstances? What other sleep issues do you have? Assess for underlying sleep disorders. They might recommend a sleep study polysomnography to rule out sleep apnea, periodic limb movements, or other disorders. Review medications and substances. They'll look at whether anything you're taking might be contributing. Provide education about sleep paralysis and sleep hygiene. Much of what they'll recommend is what we've covered: sleep schedule, sleep position, stress management. In rare cases, prescribe medication. If sleep paralysis is very frequent and disruptive despite lifestyle interventions, some medications can help. Tricyclic antidepressants, or SSRIs, can suppress REM sleep and reduce episodes, but medication is typically a last resort. Address underlying conditions. If they identify narcolepsy, sleep apnea, or another condition, treating that often reduces or eliminates sleep paralysis. The sleep study polysomnography involves sleeping overnight in a sleep lab while being monitored. They'll track brainwaves (IG) to identify sleep stages, eye movements, muscle activity, heart rate and rhythm, breathing patterns, oxygen levels, leg movements. This comprehensive monitoring can identify sleep disorders that might not be obvious from symptoms alone. For sleep paralysis specifically, the sleep study might show normal sleep architecture ruling out other disorders, or it might reveal sleep apnea, periodic limb movements, disrupted REM, or other issues that explain the sleep paralysis. The sleep study data helps guide treatment. When you don't need a doctor, you probably don't need medical evaluation if sleep paralysis has happened only once or a few times ever. Episodes are infrequent, once every few months or less. You can identify clear triggers: sleep deprivation, stress, sleeping position, and are addressing them. You don't have other concerning symptoms. The episodes, while frightening, aren't impacting your daily life significantly. In these cases, the prevention strategies we've discussed should be sufficient. The importance of ruling out narcolepsy. I want to emphasize narcolepsy specifically because it's the most important medical condition associated with sleep paralysis. Narcolepsy is a neurological disorder where the brain can't properly regulate sleep-wake cycles. Key symptoms: excessive daytime sleepiness. The main symptom: cataplexy, sudden muscle weakness, triggered by emotion. Not everyone with narcolepsy has this. Sleep paralysis. Very common in narcolepsy. Hypnagogic hallucinations. Vivid hallucinations when falling asleep or waking disrupted. Nighttime sleep. If you have excessive daytime sleepiness plus sleep paralysis, narcolepsy should be considered. Narcolepsy is underdiagnosed. Many people go years without proper diagnosis because they don't realize their sleepiness is abnormal. If you find yourself falling asleep when you don't want to during conversations, while eating, while driving, that's not normal tiredness. That's a sleep disorder symptom. Get evaluated. Narcolepsy is treatable with medications that can dramatically improve quality of life. The scientific understanding of sleep paralysis has advanced dramatically in recent decades. Let me share some of the most important research findings. The brain imaging studies. Dr. Balan Jalal and colleagues at Harvard and Cambridge have conducted some of the most detailed neuroscientific studies of sleep paralysis. In one study, they used fMRI to scan people's brains during sleep paralysis episodes. This is challenging because sleep paralysis is unpredictable and brief, making it hard to capture in a brain scanner. They found that during sleep paralysis, the medial prefrontal cortex involved in self-awareness and self-referential thought was highly active, more active than during normal REM sleep. The amygdala showed hyperactivity, explaining the intense fear. Visual cortex regions showed activity patterns similar to REM dreaming, which explains why hallucinations can be so vivid. Motor cortex showed the suppressed pattern characteristic of remitone. This confirms that sleep paralysis is a true dissociated state. Different brain regions are in different modes simultaneously. The threat-activated vigilant system. Dr. Jalal has also proposed a specific theory for why intruder hallucinations occur during sleep paralysis. He suggests that the combination of paralysis, a threatening situation, and hyperactive amygdala activates what he calls the threat-activated vigilance system. This system evolved to detect threats in the environment. When it's hyperactive during sleep paralysis, it creates a strong bias to interpret ambiguous sensory information as threatening. A shadow in the corner that you'd normally ignore becomes a lurking figure. A creak in the house becomes footsteps. Your brain is actively looking for threats to explain the fear you're feeling. This explains why the hallucinations are almost always threatening rather than neutral or positive. Your brain is in threat detection mode. The genetic studies. Researchers in California conducted a large twin study to investigate the heritability of sleep paralysis. They found that if one identical twin experiences sleep paralysis, the other twin has about a 50% chance of also experiencing it, compared to about 15% for fraternal twins. This suggests significant genetic component, probably multiple genes, each contributing small effects. They're now working to identify specific genes involved. Early research points to genes involved in circadian rhythm regulation, REM sleep control, and fear response as potential candidates. Understanding the genetics might eventually lead to better predictions of who's at risk and potentially targeted interventions. The cultural differences study. Dr. Jalal compared sleep paralysis experiences across different cultures. Western, primarily US and UK, Egyptian, and Danish samples. He found that while the core features were universal paralysis, fear, hallucinations, the specific content of hallucinations varied by culture. Western participants more often reported seeing shadowy humanoid figures or classic demons. Egyptian participants more often reported seeing jinn or spiritual beings consistent with Islamic tradition. Danish participants had fewer intruder hallucinations overall and more vestibular motor experiences. This demonstrates that while the neurobiology is universal, cultural beliefs and expectations shape the specific phenomenology. What you expect to see influences what you hallucinate. The sleep position research. Multiple studies have confirmed that supine back sleeping is strongly associated with sleep paralysis. One Japanese study found that about 60% of sleep paralysis episodes occurred while sleeping on the back, even though most people spend less than 30% of sleep time in that position. The mechanism isn't fully understood, but one theory involves breathing. Back sleeping can partially obstruct airways, creating mild breathing difficulty. This might trigger microarousals during REM sleep, increasing the chances of conscious awareness during paralysis. This breathing difficulty might also contribute to the incubus type hallucinations, pressure on chest, suffocation feeling. The practical implication is clear. Side sleeping reduces risk significantly. The treatment studies. While prevention is the main approach to sleep paralysis, Some researchers have tested specific treatments for people with frequent episodes. Meditation relaxation. One study taught people with frequent sleep paralysis a specific meditation relaxation technique to use during episodes. The technique focused attention on breathing, body scan, relaxation, and reframing the experience as just sleep paralysis, not dangerous. Participants reported shorter episodes, less intense fear, and better ability to cope. REM-suppressing medications. Small trials with tricyclic antidepressants or SSR, which suppressed REM sleep, showed they can reduce sleep paralysis frequency. But given side effects, and the fact that suppressing REM has other consequences, medication is considered a last resort for severe treatment. The phenomenology research. Several researchers have conducted detailed interviews with people who experienced sleep paralysis to understand the subjective experience better. Common findings. The experience feels absolutely real during the episode. Most people are certain they're awake, and what they're experiencing is real. Time perception is distorted. Episodes that last 30 seconds feel like they last 5 minutes or longer. The fear is often described as the most intense they've ever felt, surpassing fear in genuinely dangerous waking situations. Many people remember specific details vividly years later. The appearance of entities, exactly how they felt, where they were. First episodes are typically the most traumatic. Subsequent episodes, while still frightening, are less so because of recognition and understanding. This phenomenological research has helped researchers understand the psychological impact and develop better treatment approaches. The sleep paralysis and mental health connection. Research has shown complex relationships between sleep paralysis and mental health. People with anxiety disorders, PTSD, panic disorder, and depression report higher rates of sleep paralysis. The relationship is bidirectional. Mental health issues can trigger sleep paralysis through sleep disruption and stress, and repeated frightening sleep paralysis can contribute to anxiety. However, sleep paralysis itself doesn't cause mental illness. Having sleep paralysis doesn't mean you have or will develop a mental health disorder. For people with both mental health challenges and sleep paralysis, treating the underlying mental health issue often reduces sleep paralysis frequency. Can you die from sleep paralysis? No. There has never been a documented case of someone dying from sleep paralysis. While it feels terrifying and dangerous, it's not. Your heart rate increases from fear. But this isn't dangerous in a healthy person. You're breathing throughout, even though it might feel restricted. The paralysis is temporary and always ends. Sleep paralysis cannot kill you. Can sleep paralysis cause long-term psychological damage? Sleep paralysis itself doesn't cause psychological disorders. However, repeated extremely frightening episodes combined with lack of understanding about what is happening can contribute to anxiety about sleep or bedtime. This is why education and understanding are so important. Once people understand what sleep paralysis is, the psychological impact diminishes significantly. If you're experiencing anxiety or distress about sleep paralysis, talking to a therapist can help. Why do children rarely experience sleep paralysis? Sleep paralysis is uncommon in young children and becomes more common in adolescence and young adulthood, teens, to 30s, then may decrease again in older adulthood. We don't fully understand why, but it might relate to developmental changes in sleep regulation, changes in stress levels and sleep patterns during these life stages, or neurological development. Children's REM sleep is also somewhat different from adult REM sleep in ways that might make sleep paralysis less likely. Is there a connection between sleep paralysis and mental illness like schizophrenia? Sleep paralysis does not cause schizophrenia or psychosis. However, people who have psychotic disorders might interpret sleep paralysis through the lens of their illness, attributing it to external forces, conspiracies, or delusions. The hallucinations during sleep paralysis are different from psychotic hallucinations. They only occur during the specific state of sleep paralysis, not during normal waking. If you have or are at risk for psychotic disorders and experience sleep paralysis, it's important to work with a mental health professional to properly contextualize the experience. Can sleep paralysis happen during naps? Yes. Sleep paralysis can occur during daytime naps, especially if you're sleep deprived and enter REM sleep quickly during the nap. This is actually fairly common with naps because you might transition rapidly into REM without the usual letting through other sleep stages. If you're prone to sleep paralysis, be aware it can happen during naps, particularly if napping when very tired. Why does it feel like you can't breathe? You are actually breathing during sleep paralysis. Your diaphragm and essential breathing muscles continue to work. What you can't do is take the big, full breaths you're trying to take because your chest wall muscles are paralyzed by rheumatoid. This restricted breathing pattern is normal for REM sleep, but when you're conscious of it, it feels like suffocation. Focus on the fact that your breathing air is going in and out, even if you go in, take the deep gasps you want to take. Can you have sleep paralysis with your eyes closed? Yes, though it's less common. Most people report that their eyes are open during sleep paralysis, or they open during the episode. But some people experience sleep paralysis with eyes closed, in which case the hallucinations are purely mental imagery without visual overlay on the real environment. Others might start with eyes closed and then open them during the episode. Is it normal to have sleep paralysis only once or twice? Completely normal. Many people have one or two isolated episodes in their entire lifetime, often triggered by specific circumstances like extreme sleep deprivation, stress, or travel. The fact that it's infrequent doesn't make it less frightening when it happens, but it also means you're unlikely to experience it again if you maintain good sleep habits. Can animals experience sleep paralysis? We can't know for certain since animals can't report their subjective experiences, but we know animals experience REM sleep with atonia. We can measure this. Whether they can become conscious during this paralysis, as humans do, is unknown. There have been observations of animals, particularly dogs, seeming to startle awake and appear disoriented or frightened in ways that could potentially be sleep paralysis. But this is speculative. Why do I sometimes have multiple episodes in one night? If you wake from sleep paralysis and then go directly back to sleep in the same position, particularly on your back, you're still likely in or near a REM period. This makes another episode very likely. To prevent this, after an episode, get up briefly, fully wake up and return to bed in a different position site instead of back. This breaks the cycle. Can lucid dreaming cause sleep paralysis? Lucid dreaming doesn't cause sleep paralysis, but some techniques for inducing lucid dreams, particularly wild wake-initiated lucid dreaming, can increase the likelihood of experiencing sleep paralysis because you intentionally maintaining awareness through sleep transitions. If you practice lucid dreaming, be aware of this possibility and learn to work with it rather than fight it. Is sleep paralysis a sign of a serious brain problem? No. Sleep paralysis is not a sign of neurological disease, brain damage, or dysfunction in the vast majority of cases. It's a timing mismatch in the normal sleep cycle. If you have sleep paralysis along with other neurological symptoms, muscle weakness while awake, vision changes, coordination problems, speech difficulties, see a doctor to rule out other issues. But sleep paralysis alone is not a neurological emergency. Can prayer or spiritual practices prevent sleep paralysis? From a neuroscience perspective, sleep paralysis is a physiological phenomenon caused by neural mechanisms, not spiritual forces. However, spiritual practices that reduce stress, create feelings of safety and protection, and provide calming bedtime routines might indirectly help by reducing anxiety and improving sleep quality. If spiritual practices bring you comfort and reduce fear around sleep paralysis, they can be psychologically beneficial even if they're not directly affecting the brain mechanisms. Why do some people see demons and others see aliens? The specific content of hallucinations is shaped by cultural beliefs, personal experiences, fears, and expectations. Your brain is in a state of high fear, with active visual cortex generating imagery. What imagery gets generated draws from your existing mental models and concerns. In cultures where demon folklore is common, people see demons. In cultures where alien abduction narratives are prevalent, people see aliens. The neurology is the same. The content differs. Let me give you a concrete action plan for dealing with sleep paralysis. Whether you've experienced it once or multiple times, if you've had sleep paralysis once. Step 1. Don't panic about it happening again. A single episode is common and doesn't mean you'll have ongoing problems. Step 2. Identify the circumstances. Were you sleep deprived? Stressed? Sleeping on your back? Jet-lagged? This helps you understand your trigger. Step 3. Implement basic prevention. Prioritize 7 to 9 hours of sleep nightly. Try to sleep on your side. Manage stress reasonably well. Step 4. Educate yourself. You've watched this video. That's excellent. You now understand what sleep paralysis is. If it happens again. Step 5. Don't develop anxiety about sleep. One episode doesn't mean more will come. Most people who have one episode never have another. If you have recurring sleep paralysis, Week 1, assessment and education. Keep a sleep paralysis diary. Record, date, and time of each episode. Hours of sleep you got before the episode. Sleep position, stress level, 1 to 10. Any alcohol, caffeine, or medications. Would you experienced? Paralysis only. Hallucinations. Type of hallucinations. Educate yourself thoroughly. Read articles from reputable sources. Understand the neuroscience. Week 2, sleep schedule. Fix. Choose consistent bed and wake times. You can maintain 7 days a week. Aim for 8 hours of sleep. Opportunity. Set alarms to remind you when to start your bedtime routine and when bedtime is. Track your actual sleep duration using your phone or a simple log. Weeks 3 to 4. Sleep position modification. Get a body pillow or use the tennis ball technique to train yourself to side sleep. It takes those 4 weeks to change sleep position habits. Be patient. Track which position you wake up in each morning to monitor progress. Ongoing environmental and lifestyle optimization. Create optimal sleep environment. Dark, cool, quiet. Develop a consistent bedtime routine. 30 to 60 minutes of wind-down activities. Eliminate caffeine after 2 p.m. No alcohol within 3 hours of bedtime. Regular exercise, but not close to bedtime. Stress management through meditation, therapy, or other techniques that work for you. Ongoing in-episode strategy development. Practice in your mind what you'll do during an episode. When I wake up paralyzed, I'll recognize it as sleep paralysis. I'll focus on breathing slowly. I'll remind myself it's temporary. I'll try to wiggle my fingers. I won't panic. Mental rehearsal makes the strategy accessible when you actually need it. Month 223. Reassessment. Review your sleep paralysis diary. Have episodes reduced? If yes, continue current strategies. Consider whether you can relax any of them. For instance, if you haven't had an episode in 6 weeks, you might not need to be quite as strict about every element. If episodes continue frequently despite lifestyle changes, consider seeing a sleep specialist. You might have an underlying sleep disorder contributing to the paralysis. The if it happens tonight plan. Here's your specific plan if you experience sleep paralysis. During the episode. 1. Recognize it. This is sleep paralysis. I know what this is. 2. Focus on breathing. Slow, controlled breaths. Count, if it helps. 3. Don't fight the paralysis. Acceptance reduces panic. 4. Try small movements. Wiggle a finger or toe if possible. Remind yourself, this is temporary. It will end. I'm safe. After the episode ends. 1. Get up briefly. Don't just lie back down immediately. 2. Drink water. Use bathroom. Walk around. Fully wake up. 3. Change position. If you were on your back, sleep on your side when you return to bed. 4. Note it in your diary. Quick entry about the episode for pattern tracking. 5. Use calming technique if needed. If you're anxious, do breathing exercises or progressive muscle relaxation before going back to sleep. 5. The next day. 1. Don't catastrophize. Having an episode doesn't mean you'll have another tonight. 2. Review your triggers. Sleep deprivation, stress, back sleeping, alcohol. 3. Address what you can. If you were sleep deprived, prioritize sleep tonight. If stressed, plan stress management. 4. Maintain perspective. It was frightening, but temporary and not dangerous. For family members or partners. If someone you live with experiences sleep paralysis, here's how to help. Educate yourself. Understand what it is so you can be supportive. Do not panic if you observe it. If you see your partner lying still with eyes open, looking frightened, they might be in sleep paralysis. Don't shake them violently or yell. This can increase fear. Gentle intervention. Light touch on the arm or quiet, calm voice, saying, "You're okay. It's sleep paralysis. I'm here," can be comforting. After the episode, provide calm reassurance. Don't dismiss their fear, but remind them it's temporary and not dangerous. Support prevention efforts. Help maintain sleep schedules. Be understanding about sleep position preferences. Support stress management. Don't create anxiety. Don't constantly ask, "Did you have sleep paralysis last night?" This can create anticipatory anxiety that makes it more likely. Measuring success. Success isn't necessarily 0 episodes forever. For people prone to sleep paralysis, realistic goals might be reduction in frequency from weekly to monthly, or monthly to a few times per year. Reduction in intensity episodes are shorter, less frightening. Better coping, you handle episodes with less panic and fear, less anxiety about sleep in general. Quick recovery, you can get back to sleep after an episode rather than staying awake for hours. All of these represent progress and improve quality of life, even if occasional episodes still occur. The long-term perspective. Sleep paralysis tends to be most common in teens, 20s, and 30s, then often decreases naturally in later adulthood. Many people who have frequent episodes in their 20s find they become rare or disappear entirely by their 40s. The combination of natural decrease over time plus good sleep hygiene and prevention strategies means most people can effectively manage or eliminate sleep paralysis. It's not a life sentence. It's a phenomenon that can be understood, managed, and often outgrown. We've covered a lot of ground in this video, from the neuroscience of what is actually happening in your brain during sleep paralysis, to practical strategies for prevention and management. Let me bring it all together with the key takeaways. What sleep paralysis is. Sleep paralysis is a dissociated state where you regain consciousness. While your body is still in REM sleep paralysis, your brain wakes up before your body does. It's not supernatural. It's not a sign of mental illness. It's not dangerous. It's a timing glitch in your sleep cycle. The hallucinations, while terrifying, are generated by your own brain, trying to make sense of conflicting signals. Hyperactive amygdala creates threat perception. Visual cortex in REM mode generates imagery. Altered breathing is misinterpreted as pressure. Understanding the mechanics doesn't eliminate fear completely, but it transforms inexplicable horror into understandable neuroscience. Why? IT happens. Sleep deprivation is the primary trigger. Irregular sleep schedules, sleeping on your back, stress, certain medications, and underlying sleep disorders all increase risk. Genetics play a role. Some people are more susceptible, but even with genetic predisposition, environmental factors matter enormously. What you can do? Prevention is the most effective approach. Consistent sleep schedule. Adequate sleep 7 to 9 hours. Side sleeping position. Stress management. Good sleep hygiene. During an episode, stay as calm as possible. Focus on breathing. Don't fight the paralysis. Try small movements. Remind yourself it's temporary after an episode. Get up briefly before returning to sleep. Change sleep position. Don't develop anxiety about it happening again. The bigger picture. Sleep paralysis, while frightening, is a window into how consciousness works. It shows us that awareness, motor control, perception, and emotion are separate brain systems that normally work together seamlessly but can dissociate. It reminds us how much of our experience is generated internally by our brain, not just received passively from the external world, and it demonstrates the power of knowledge and understanding to transform experience. The same neurological event that would be interpreted as a demonic attack in medieval Europe is understood as an interesting brain state in modern neuroscience. Your interpretation matters. Not in a just think positive way, but in a genuine recognition that understanding what's happening changes the experience. A message: if you've experienced sleep paralysis, you're not alone. Millions of people have experienced this. Throughout history, across every culture, humans have dealt with sleep paralysis. What you experienced was real. The fear, the paralysis, the hallucinations. Your brain genuinely generated those perceptions. You weren't imagining it or making it up, but you also weren't in danger. The presence you saw wasn't real. The pressure on your chest wasn't caused by an external entity. Your brain created those experiences through known, explainable mechanisms. You can manage this, whether through prevention strategies that reduce or eliminate episodes, or through coping techniques that make episodes less traumatic when they do occur. Sleep paralysis doesn't have to control your life or your sleep. With understanding and the right approach, it becomes manageable. Final thoughts. Sleep is one of the most fundamental aspects of life. We spend a third of our lives asleep. Understanding sleep, including the unusual or frightening experiences that can happen during sleep, is important. Sleep paralysis is part of the broader landscape of sleep phenomena. It's related to dreams, to REM sleep, to consciousness, to how the brain regulates states of awareness. Studying sleep paralysis has taught researchers about consciousness, fear, perception, and how the brain creates our subjective experience. For people who experience it, understanding sleep paralysis provides both practical tools for management and deeper insight into how the mind works. This is Serene Science Channel. Thank you for watching this comprehensive exploration of sleep paralysis. If you found this helpful, subscribe for more evidence-based content on sleep, dreams, and neuroscience. Share this video with anyone who's experienced sleep paralysis. Understanding and education are the best tools we have. And remember, sleep paralysis is frightening, but it's temporary, it's explainable, and it's manageable. You're not being attacked by demons or aliens. You're experiencing a fascinating quirk of brain function that we can now understand and handle. Sweet dreams. And if you wake up paralyzed, remember what you learned here. You're safe. It will pass. You know what this is.